Again, I'm so sorry for joining late. All I can say is happy Makar Sankranti to all of you. Happy Uttarayan and wish you a very bright and new year. तिळगुळ घ्या आणि गोड बोला. मकर संक्रांतीच्या सगळ्यांना हार्दिक शुभेच्छा. So let's start on a very sweet note. Yes, thank you very much. So let's start the day on a very auspicious and sweet note of Uttarayan. Let's begin. So here, let me just open the sequence. Yeah, happy Sankranti. So let me ask you. I hope you had time yesterday in the lab to go through what we did yesterday. Has everyone revised yesterday's stuff? That is Servlet JDBC integration, the redirection, that is page navigation technique client pull 2, and the other one what we did was cookie-based session tracking. Has anyone attempted creating that topics page which we had discussed towards the end? Topic servlet? Okay, that's also great. Like I promised, we'll be doing it together, but in a little later manner. So let's start with, let me tell you what we are going to do today, continue today. So session tracking, I'm going to show you, but not using cookies, using a better approach, using a more advanced approach called as HTTP session, where you as a developer has to do less and the bulk of it, such as, again, it will be internally based on cookies, but creating the cookies, adding the cookies, retrieving the cookies will all be done by the web container. So we'll talk about it. We will do the completion of that case study, content management system, as far as the customer part is concerned. And then I want to start with I want to show you the other navigation technique, server pull. And if time remains, then I'll talk about servlet config, servlet context, additional features in the servlet. So let's start with a quick revision, and then we can go to the completion of case study. There's a after revision. I will take this first session. Anyway, let me start with the revision. So let me open the diagram. Before I open the diagram, tell me, which are the two type of navigation techniques? Everyone knows that. In J2E, which are the two navigation techniques, please? Client pull and a server pull. So what is common between both of them? In either client pull or server pull, you are navigating the client from first page to second page. So that part is common. You have not seen server pull, I know that. But what is the difference between the two is, in client pull, are you navigating the client to the next page in the same request or in the next request? In the next request. And that next request, of course, comes all the way from the client as a client browser. Whereas when you see server pull technique, you will see that it is like a resource chaining. So client will end up sending only one request, and that request will be dispatched to multiple resources. That is request chaining technique, or it is called as request dispatcher technique. So the main difference is, in server pull, you will be navigating the client from, let's say, servlet 1 to servlet 2 in the next request or in the same request. Server pull, I'm saying, in the same request. So once we talk about it, diagrams and all, you'll understand. Okay, so focus on client pull. In client pull, there are two scenarios: clicking on a button, clicking on a link, where user action is involved. So that we have done links, buttons, and all that. But the other one is client pull 2, which is your redirect scenario. So start. Which is the method? Okay, let me ask you. If you want to redirect the client from, let's say, what was yesterday, login servlet to topic servlet in the next request, which will be the method you'll use? Give me the API. SendRedirect. Whose method it is? Which is the invoker object? Response.SendRedirect. Perfect. And what is the argument of this thing, send redirect method? What is the argument of it? The yeah, topics. Topics is Rohit for this. No, location. Yeah, generally, I wanted a generic answer. Location. So if you say response dot send redirect from this thing, let's say topics from what is that? Login servlet. In the login servlet page, what will happen? So take a look at it. Diagram makes it make it seem easy. So take a look at this diagram. Internal working of redirect. You know everything. I'm just revising it. So after client submits the login form with two inputs, email and password, it is sent to the authentication servlet, which is your login servlet. In login servlet, suppose you write a message, pw.print success message, and when you say response.send redirect to topics, what is happening? Is web container directly taking you to the topics page? Absolutely not. Everyone knows that. What is the first thing container does? First thing is it discards the print writer buffer. So tell me, whatever you have written in this buffer, will it appear on the client browser side or will it not? Answer is, of course, it will be ignored. And everyone knows if you force the committing of the response by saying pw.flush, pw.close, what you will get? What will a web container do? Throws the illegal state exception, telling you that you cannot send redirect, you cannot call send redirect after response is committed, after committing the response. Okay, so now web container starts sending temporary redirect response. So what will be the contents of that response packet? Status code redirect. SC302 is for redirect. It's a redirect response, which will be one header which will be added thanks to send redirect location. Okay, the value, I mean, this was a bookshop case, so forget it. But just make this, there's an error here. So what will be the value of the location here? I'll correct it before I send it to you. Just a second. So the value of the location header, of course, will be topics. So this was from the bookshop example. So this will be your topics naturally. Just to say, you keep the further answers ready. So this will be, if you say topics, then it is topics. And the body content, the response body content will be empty. Buffer contents, print writers buffer content are going to be discarded, are going to be emptied. Okay. And such a response. So now see, this request response loop is over. Okay. So this response is sent to the client browser. Tell me, what will client browser do? Will client browser do, I mean, will client browser just sit there or what it will do? Everyone knows the answer. There is an answer here. What will client browser do? It will automatically send the next request. Okay. Will user as a human, as a person is involved? Absolutely not. Only client browser does this automatic redirection. So see this RQ2. Guys, everyone can see. Suppose I call the form submission as a request one. You are navigating the client to the next page in the next request. This is what I meant, or this is what we understand. So in the request to, what will be the method? It is sent by client browser automatically. So method will be get. And since here I have already, only we have supplied is the location without any host, without any port, without any web application, it will be relative to current web application. So I have written here URI, but if you talk in URL, HTTP host:/port / whatever web application you are developing / topics. So you are, again, I'm saying the same thing, navigating the client from authentication servlet to topic servlet in RQ1 or in the next request RQ2. No, check privacy and all is, we are not discussing that yet. I've not yet come to the session tracking. RQ2 is the correct answer. Everyone correct? Everyone realize that? So now, so this was your redirect scenario. Everyone, I hope 100% clear. Now the next thing. Here, let me ask you. If I say in this page authentication servlet, request.get parameter email. Here the form was submitted. So what will I get? The email value null or not null? I'm talking about authentication page. What will I get? The email value will be what? Null or not null? Of course, guys, you're not hearing the question. I said in authentication servlet, if I say request.get parameter null or not null, how can you say null? We have done all the code. Hold on. Here, wait a second. Open the code. src main Java pages login servlet. Here, didn't we get the email and password values correctly? Otherwise, whole thing would have not worked. Okay, so don't give wrong answers. So here, of course, I'll get not null. But if I do the same thing in the topic servlet page, pw.print request.get parameter em, what will I get? Null or not null? Here you will get null. And what is the reason? What is the reason of you getting the request parameters null? Statelessness of the protocol. Your HTTP server, which is working on HTTP protocol, is stateless. So how can it remember whatever form data was submitted to this page? How can it remember it in the next request? So what is the solution to make us remember the client from login to logout? What is the solution? Session tracking. No. Solution is session tracking. Okay. So session tracking is required for remembering any client from in the entire conversation from login to logout. Plus, you never write the applications for one client. We write it for multiple clients. So would you like to mix up the state of one client with another, such as banking account information, such as shopping cart, such as user details, or would you like to identify it separately? Of course, identify it separately. So for that, we use session tracking technique. Okay, so which is the session tracking technique you have understood yesterday? We have talked about yesterday. Cookie based. Okay, so now revise the cookie based technique. So here, I'll just talk about it. I think I have a picture in yesterday's help. Wait a second. The 4 help. This page navigation. I think this we have a picture. Just a second. Okay, the what do you say? The case study was different. That was a bookshop case study, but you can still, I think, understand. Or okay, this might confuse you. Let me come to the latest picture. I'll just talk about it verbally. So I'll tell you the question. I'll tell you the requirement. What is the requirement? I want to remember the client across multiple requests. So start telling me, what is the first step in cookie-based session tracking? I'm looking at your answer. Plain old cookie-based approach. Yes, create a cookie. So tell me, which page we have to create a cookie? Login page or the topics page? Login page. Give me the API. How do you create a cookie? Using cookie class constructor. What are the two constructor arguments? String name, string value. Perfect. So string comma string. So cookie C1 equal to new cookie. You can say client details, client information, comma. You have already lifted the details from database. So user Kojo, user dot toString. So can you add any non-string data in the cookie? Answer is no, because the name forget, but the value of the cookie is string. So all you can add is the string data. Everyone understood the first limitation. Next one, keeping the cookies on server, useful or useless? Completely useless. So what is the next step we take in the cookie-based scenario? Add the cookie. Yes, send it to the this thing. So add the cookie to the response header. Which is the method you use for that? Give me the method. Response dot add cookie. and C1, whatever. Suppose you have created 10 cookies, you will have to call response.add cookie C1, response.add cookie C2 to C10. We don't create multiple cookies. Soon we are going to replace plain cookie based scenario by something called as HTTP session. Okay, so all that will be clear soon. Now the next thing. So cookies added in the response header, and then the same thing we had done. What we had done is we had again called response.sendRedirect topics. So imagine two-liner code here. Cookie C1 equal to new cookie and response dot this thing add cookie. Now tell me how will it change? So container still discards or empties that print writer buffer, same. It generates the status code SC302. But in addition to location header, which other header will be generated? Set cookie header, very right. What will be the header name? Header name is set cookie. What will be the value? Cookie name and a cookie value. I hope everyone has seen it from the inspecting network traffic. Okay, so now this cookie header, the whole response which has location and set cookie header is sent to the client side. What will client browser do? Tell me. Now talk about all these things. Client browser will check something, privacy settings. What is privacy settings? Cookies are accepted or cookies are blocked, enabled or disabled. Suppose cookies are blocked, disabled. Can it continue with session tracking? Can it remember the client? Of course not. So the entire cookie-based session tracking depends upon cookie policies. Suppose cookies are enabled. What is the next check client browser will do? It will check the age of the cookie. What is the default age of the cookie when you don't set one? -1. In that case, where are cookies stored? In the browser's cache. So will it be a persistent cookie or will it be a transient cookie? Persistent or transient? Just transient, which will remain, not persistent. Persistent means this one, Aman, stored on the hard disk permanently. It's a transient. The moment you exit from the browser or the moment you clear the cookie is gone that way. Okay, so it's a transient cookie. So, okay, so it has saved in the client browser's cache. Next, so now whenever this client browser is sending the request to the same web application, to any other page in the web application, what does a cookie represent? A data which is shared across all the web pages. Today we are going to develop topics, tutorials, logout, whatever pages, tutorial details and all that. So the cookies will be shared across all these pages. So now tell me, client browser will generate request to with method equal to get URL, URI, you know. But what will be added in the request header? A cookie will be added. What will be the header name? Cookie itself. And cookie name and a cookie value will be sent from client to browser. Everyone with me? So now the control, when I say control comes to topic servlet, what I mean is your web container will call the topic servlets do get method. So now tell me, which is the method to retrieve the cookies, to find out the cookies, to get the data? Get cookies. There's a S here. What does a get cookies method return? A cookie or cookie array? Cookie array. If the cookies are not sent by the client browser, what will be the value of that cookie array? Null. So we did the null checking. If it is not null, that means 100% I have got a cookie. So am I interested in any arbitrary cookie or a specific cookie? Specific cookie. So how do you find the name of the cookie? Which is the name? How do you find the name of the cookie? Get name. So you remember we had, okay, don't remember. I mean, when we have the code, you don't have to do anything. Just look at this code. So what we did, we got this array of cookies. Then we checked null or not null. If it is not null, since it is an array, either you can use arrays.stream.cookies or good old for each imperative style. See why I'm saying in the imperative style, because today the focus is on web programming. You can always replace it by stream. So if the name of the cookie is user details, that means I have found the user, I have found the cookie, but I'm not interested in the name. What we are interested in is in the value, and this value or this cookie is holding the user details. So we could, this is how you could remember the user details across multiple requests. So tell me openly, both the important topics of yesterday, the page, this thing, redirect scenario and cookie-based session tracking. Is it clear to all? Is it clear? Okay. So now, before writing that topic servlet, which I had given you as a homework, I will take a HTTP session-based session tracking and then we'll apply it to the case study. You'll see why. I'll tell you the justification in good time. So now I have already shared in day 4 help, day 4 data, open day 4 data, day 4 help. Already you have full help of session tracking. So open the same readme. We have not yet finished with that. So go to the part where I'm discussing the shortcomings, limitations, or disadvantages of cookie-based scenario. As everyone is aware, you as a programmer, servlet developer, you have to create a cookie, add the cookie to the response header, and retrieve the cookie. In short, who has to work more, web programmer or container? Programmer has to slog, which has to stop sooner or later. Another huge limitation is, if I say save directly user details as a user Pojo reference, or shopping cart, or banking, or if you're doing stock trading, so stock details, purchase stock, I simply cannot do it, because all cookies represent or all cookies have is nothing but a string data. So that is not possible. If at all you increase the number of cookies, net traffic will increase. And here, where is the state of the client? Where is the information of the client stored in this approach? On the client side C, server side S. Where is the state stored? On the client side. Okay. So the moment you delete the cookie or disable the cookie, entire approach fails. Everyone is clear about it? Everyone is clear about whatever the disadvantages. That is the reason we are learning a next approach. So that next approach is, second technique is, we are doing the session tracking, but are we going to use directly the cookie API, or are you going to use the HTTP session API, which is very analogous to session storage? Answer is, we are going to use the HTTP session API. Only thing is that sessions, let me not confuse, session storage and all happens on the client browser side. This will be happening on the server side. So understand the basic. Listen to the statements I'm making. When I take you from approach 1, technique 1 was plain cookie based. Technique 2 is HTTP session API. So here, let me say this properly. Okay, so in this approach, what is the major change? The major changes I have already written here. Where will be the user information or client state stored? In this new approach, will it be stored on the client side or will it be stored on the server side? Answer is, it will be stored on in a server side. Which data structure we are going to use to store the this thing, client information? Yeah, it is internally a map. So it is HTTP session object. HTTP session is nothing but a map internally. But the type will be javax.servlet.http. That's a package. And name of the interface is HTTP session. So one disadvantage is gone. Are you saving the state of the client? The client specific information on the client side or server side? Server side within a HTTP session object. Cool. Next one. I'm trying to tell you here. Is it going to, but point is it going to be based on internally cookies? 100% yes. It is still going to be based on cookies, but who is going to manage cookies hereafter? P or WC, programmer or web container? Answer is web container will manage. So first disadvantage gone. Second disadvantage also will be gone, because when I give you HTTP session API, there are two methods. Like how we have local storage, session storage methods, set item, get item. Do you remember using the methods set item, get item in your React training? Okay, so here you have HTTP session methods, set attribute, get attribute. And you will see when you say set attribute, attribute is nothing but a server-side entry, key and a value pair, and it is of the type key. The attribute name is string, fine. But attribute value is object, your java.lang.object. So tell me, storing user details, storing shopping cart, storing bank account information directly in HTTP session object, will it be possible, or will we be limited only to strings? I can store any Java object. You know, object is a universal superclass. So I say suppose array list, shopping cart is array list of books, let's say. So I can array list is an object I can store. So second disadvantage will be also gone. Third disadvantage. Even when I say HTTP session is involving cookies, how many cookies will be used internally by the web container? Single or multiple? Answer is one single cookie. That name of the cookie is JSession ID, standing for Java Session ID. So is there any danger? Is there any concern of increasing number of cookies in HTTP session approach? Absolutely not. So third disadvantage also gone, if I count it from 0, 1, 2. The fourth one, where will be the entire state of the client saved in the HTTP session new approach? On the server side or on the client side? I already told you. There will be a server side object called as HTTP session. So we will be storing the state there. But guys, look at the thing. Are you going to? So let me just open this picture for clarity. Are you ever going to write any web application for single client or multiple clients? Of course, multiple clients. So imagine this side, multiple clients. Let's say there are 10 clients. Okay, 10 is just a number. C1, C2, C3 till C10. And all of them are accessing your HTTP session-based web application. So think smartly and tell me, how many HTTP session objects will be created on the container heap? 1 or 10? If there are 10 clients which are connected to you, are you saying there will be how can you say such a wrong answer? If you say one HTTP session object, here I asked the number, Girish, so you gave a wrong number then. So here 1 per client means give the number 10. How can you mix up all clients information in one HTTP session object? Of course, there will be one session object per client, making the answer as 10. Okay, so there will be different session object, HS1, HS2, HS3, I mean HTTP session 1, HTTP session 10. Now think like container. Imagine you are a container. So you have to, when suppose C3 means client 3 comes in, where will be the client 3 information? HS1, HS2, HS3 or HS10. Where would be that client specific information? HTTP session 3. Everyone with me? I'm going to show you pictures, but little later. But how can a poor container know that this is that HTTP session 3 object which I have to pick up? That is why, listen to the statement, each and every HTTP session object will be associated with a key. I'll repeat the last statement again. Imagine in the heap, HS1, HS2, HS3, HS4, HS10. But each of this HTTP session will have a unique identifier. And that unique identifier is JSession ID, a unique session identifier. So will these session IDs, will they be same across the clients, or will it be specific to, will they be different for different clients? Of course, they will be different. Everyone understands it? But now this JSession ID has to come from the client. Then only you can recognize that, okay, I'm talking to C1, I'm talking to C2, I'm talking to C3. So guess smartly how this JSession ID must be getting transferred, exchange between client and a server. I built up a story. I said we got multiple HTTP session HTTP session objects. Wrong, Swapnil. Those HTTP session objects have the unique session identifiers. But when you say unique session IDs, that session ID has to come from the client in some form. So what must be used to exchange that session ID? I get the answer generally at this point. Think a little bit. Yes, finally Mohammed got it right. Anjumala and all this. What else, guys? Cookies. I told you, whatever you are doing specifically in a plain cookie-based approach, simply web container does. So anytime a new client, logs in, there is of course an API to learn. Very, very simple API. HTTP session object will be created on the server side. It will be assigned a JSession ID, and that JSession ID will be sent to the client browser in form of a cookie. So which code a container will call to add the cookie, to add this cookie to the response header? Which code a web container will call to add the cookie? Of course, response.add cookie. But what will be the name of the cookie? JSession ID. How will you confirm what I'm saying is correct or not? Wait for 10 minutes. Let me explain the API and you will confirm it. In spec tools, of course. So the point is JSession ID will be the name and the value will be uniquely generated string. And suppose you are playing with 10 clients, 10 different JSession IDs per client would be, one session ID per client. So the story is the same. So client browser will, let us imagine that cookies are enabled. So looking at the edge, what will be the default edge? -1. So where will be this JSession ID cookie stored? In the browser's cache. And next time onwards, same client sends the request to the same web application. What will request header contain? Cookie. So that cookie will contain JSession ID. And from JSession ID, your container will figure out the session, HTTP session object associated with a particular client. So if you really think hard, it's not too much of a difference. Of course, there's a big difference. All your data, all the state of the client is now stored on the server. So I have a small question, but important question to ask. So tell me, will this HTTP session-based technique survive if cookies are disabled? Will you be able to remember the client if cookies are gone? Of course not. So this is what I have said here in the clear-cut manner. So read this slowly. Entire state of the client is not saved on the client side. Understood that? Where it is saved? On the server side data structure, which you'll understand soon, HTTP session, which is nothing but it has a map internally. But the point is, the key to this data structure, the key to identifying this HTTP session object, which is JSession ID, Java session identifier, is still sent to the client in form of a cookie. So who is going to do this management of the cookie? Adding a cookie, retrieving the cookie, and whatever, creating the cookie container. So the point is, entire session tracking again fails miserably if cookies are disabled. But at least those earlier 3 disadvantages, are they gone? Or are they still there? Those are gone. Okay. So did you have some idea about what we are going to learn? How we are going to change it? So I've got a whiteboard here. Wait a second. I'll see if it is too involved. I don't want to show you. Yeah, it's not too involved. It's a simple one. So you'll start getting the idea. Okay. So look at this. You got a authentication servlet. You got a topic servlet. What is it I'm showing you here? Server side heap. You can say web containers heap. How many clients are connected here? Let's say 3 clients. So here, things do not happen automatically. Learn JSP tomorrow or maybe day after sometime, and you will see automatically things happening. But in Servlet, you have to call the API. Which method? Which is the method to tell the container to get the session object? There is a method request.getSession. We'll reach there. So when the programmer, Servlet programmer, you and me, when we call here request.getSession, who is going to do what and when? Web container will create the HTTP session object and it will associate it with a unique JSession ID. So where is the session object created? On the client side or on the server side? Server side. I've just taken some examples. Actual JSession ID will be a huge string. You will see it in a minute. I mean, couple of minutes. So every HTTP session object is associated with the session ID. Okay. Now, when the response is sent back, it is a redirect response. It is a normal response. We don't care. What will be sent back to the client? This JSession ID information will be sent back to the client in form of a set cookie header. Imagine cookies are enabled. So web browser, client browser will save it in the cache. And next time it is sending, same client is sending the request to any of the pages in the web application. What will it send in the request header? What will it send? This cookie JSession ID. So it gets back, the container gets back the JSession ID value of ABC1234. And from that, it will figure out that, okay, this is the client, or it will use this HTTP session object to retrieve the user details. So again, I'm asking you the question. Suppose there are 3 clients connected. How many HTTP session objects will be created in the heap? 1 or 3? Answer is of course 3. Getting some idea? The details I have yet to explain, the internal structure and all, but got some idea about HTTP session? Yes or no? So now let us look into the steps. We will apply it and then we will continue to the remaining part of the case study. So everything, all the notes I have already given. So now the steps. So I'm discussing the step and we will perform it. So I know J2E training is so important to you. So now the even the readmes will be also more systematic. So first step is read. You can read this on your own. I'll explain. Okay, so which is the method? Again, I'm telling you, the J2E concept is little involved. And why it says involved, why it feels involved? Because I always tell you about internals. If you say no, I'm happy, not knowing the internals, then the API is very easy. So how you are going to, what is the starting point? The starting point is request.getSession. So who is requesting whom? For what? Servlet is requesting the web container that get me the HTTP session. So which type of HTTP session your container will give you? If it is a brand new client, if it is the first time, listen to this. If you are calling request.getSession for the first time for any client, in short, a new client, what will it return? A new session object or existing one? Easy question. Of course, returns a brand new. Brand new means empty. There are no attributes. There is no data. There is no information stored here. But so for example, in authentication servlet or that login servlet, will say in login successful case, request.get session. So who is going to create the session? P or WC, programmer or web container, and you are just going to enjoy it directly. Okay, so that is the first step. But now, when you redirect the client from login servlet to that topic servlet, once again, if you say HTTP session HS is equal to request.get session, what kind of a session object will you get? New one or existing one? Of course, existing one, because the session object has been created in the earlier request. Or better way is, client has already joined the session. There is a HTTP session object there. Okay, so that is the first step. So I was thinking of explaining the step and doing, but let me explain 2-3 steps and we'll do it together. Keep your STS all ready. And if you want to continue, just copy day 4.2. I know you have done day 4 lab, but keep it aside. We'll merge it properly. Don't worry. So copy day 4.2. Wait a second. Yes, into day 5.1. You don't have to do it. You can focus on the discussion. We can do it together. Your choice. So right now, don't read this description. Currently, just read this much only. So either a new or existing object is returned. If it is a first request, of course, the new one is returned. Now, what is the main deal? We are looking into HTTP session to remember the client. So, like how we had session storage.set item, here you have how to save the data in HTTP session, whose scope is going to be, the scope of that data will be entire session. So that is, read the method name. Read this. So that is going to be set attribute method. Simply replace, of course, set item has, JavaScript doesn't have the data types at all, but it is generally a string, which you can parse into JSON and all. But the point here is, this is string comma object. So tell me, can you store Java objects in HTTP session, or are we limited to strings? Everyone knows it. I can directly add an object. And once I say object, user Pojo is an object. Topic list is an object. Tutorial list is an object, etc. So that limitation gone. I've given an example. So hs.setAttribute, client information, and validated user details. You will not get any compiler error. So what is an attribute? Attribute is a server-side entry. And the moment I say entry in the middle of night, you know key and a value pair, which will get stored in the HTTP session map. So where is that map? What is that internal structure? Little later. So everyone is clear? How are we going to save the user details? Using which method? Set attribute. What are the two arguments of that set attribute? String comma object. String attribute name, object attribute value. Related to your earlier training, and you will understand it so easily. Now, if I want to retrieve the data, which was the earlier we used set attribute, which is the method for data retrieval, get attribute. Read it. So exactly opposite, setter and a getter. So which is the method for retrieving the data from the session scope? In goes the string key as an attribute name, and out comes the value in form of an object. But suppose your Pojo type is customer, customer is an object, but object is not a customer. So of course you'll have to do the typecasting, downcasting from object to your Pojo, and you can retrieve the information. Got it so far? Which are the three things I have discussed, three methods I have discussed? Request.get session, set attribute and the get attribute. Got it all? Next one, I'm telling you, API is really easy, more than easy in J2E. Now, if you are curious, and you should be, that what is that so-called JSession ID? I want to find that JSession ID, which is nothing but a cookie. So how do I get the JSession ID? The method is, all these are HTTP session APIs, session.getID. If you want to anytime remove a particular attribute, you remember in the map API, we had a method map.remove. In goes the key and the entire entry is removed. What is the method name here? Remove attribute. You supply the name of the attribute and that key value pair, attribute name and attribute value will be removed. So if you want to remove the attribute, the method is remove attribute. Now, do you want to, what is it called? Do you want to remember the client after the client has logged out? It's a Boolean question, yes or no? Answer is no. We are maintaining the client information from login to logout. We have yet to write a logout page. We never reached there yesterday. So in a logout cell page, how do you tell the web container to discard the session, invalidate that HTTP session object, to mark that HTTP session object from the, to remove it? Method is very easy, invalidate. And you will see web container marks the HTTP session object on the server side for garbage collection. That HTTP session object entry, that JSession ID and that HTTP session object, that entry is removed. But cookie, I mean, it is a little bit client browser specific, but generally cookie is not deleted from the client browser. But that will not matter. You'll see it when we test it. So let me recap. What is the kind of the API? What is the method? Which is the method you'll use to discard the session at the in the logout style page, checkout, logout, payment page is the invalidate. Now the debugging API. If you want to see, web container is managing the sessions as new session, old session and all. But if you, as a beginner, I hope you are curious enough to see whether the session is old or new. Which is the method, debugging method to find out is new. What will it return for new client? True. New means just participated client. The HTTP session object is brand new created, empty created. True. Or for the existing client, it's going to return false. If you want to find, suppose there are 10 attributes. I said I've got a HTTP session object and I said set attribute, attribute 1, attribute 2, attribute 3, something. And if I want to find all the attribute names, which is the method we have, session.get attribute names, it returns you the enumeration. This is your java.util.enumeration interface, just like an iterator. And then it has got methods, has more elements, and you can iterate over it and find out the attribute names. Everyone knows. What is the default session? I mean, everyone knows means yesterday I mentioned. What is the default session timeout, expiration timeout for Tomcat? Default value is 30 minutes. So, can you change this session configuration, session timeout? Yes. There are two approaches. One is the programmatic approach or the declarative approach, explaining both. So if you want to code it, programmatic means configure it using code. So which is the method you got? Set max inactive interval. And that interval is mentioned in seconds. So example makes it clear. So if I say session.setMax interval, inactive interval 300, if client sends the request 1 and goes off for a break and comes back after 5 minutes, will the session continue or will it be expired? Of course, session will automatically expire. You got it? If you don't want to do the coding way, if you want to do it the declarative way, using XML tags, there's no annotation, either the code or this. You know so many tags in web.xml, such as welcome file list, servlet deployment tags. there is a new tag here, session configuration. Within that, there is a child tag, session timeout. And this time, unit is in minutes. It is approximate. So whether you supply here in seconds or whether you supply till, the same instruction is given to the container and you can change the default timeout. Understood the API? All this I have shared with you. So please keep this in front of you, and instead of directly continuing in the case study, which we will do in 10-15 minutes or whatever, first let me show you cookie-based session tracking replaced by HTTP session API. Is the objective clear? Are the steps clear? Somewhat, 5%, 10%. Let us give it a try. So keep your day 4 lab aside, where you might have tried that, adding the topic servlet and all that. But let us continue just by in small increments, baby steps, and let's replace it and understand it in a simple manner. So I'm closing everything. Copy day 4.2 into day 5.1. You can call it as class. Make a copy of the project. After making the copy, immediately what should you change in this new project? Context root, very right. So right click on day 5.1, properties, go to the third last entry, web project settings, and change the context root to 5.1 and say apply and close. Okay, that. Done so far? Okay. So now, is the objective clear? I'll mention it. I've not written it too long a sequence. Revise cookie-based session tracking, which we did, and now replace cookie-based, which is what we are doing, cookie-based session tracking by HTTP session API. Okay, this is the current step we are into, and then we are going to complete the remaining part of the case study. Whatever I complete here, I'll do. Remaining part, of course, is your lab work. So before that, keep your Java docs open. J2E docs open, because parallelly you should always confirm. So everything starts from HTTP servlet request method get session. So look for HTTP, Control F, servlet request, and in that HTTP servlet request, which is the method we are looking at, is get session. It tells you so clearly. By the way, there are 2 overloaded methods. Popular question, what is the difference and all? We'll discuss it later. So returns the current session associated with this request, or if the request does not have, if the client is new, creates a new one. So this is the first API we are going to use. Okay, so now I hope everyone has copied the project and changed the context root. So now tell me, where should I make this? Which Java source, or what should I open to make the changes? Your choices are login form, login servlet, or topic servlet. Of course, the login servlet. Open that. Rest all, don't even look at, don't even waste energy. Pages. Now I don't require this servlet. Okay, let's first clear out the earlier stuff. So I'll spend a minute. Just give us a minute. Remove this servlet 1, servlet 2. You don't require it any longer. Anyway, so get rid of it. You don't require it in the today's discussion. We had already that lazy versus eager. So forget that. And just one more thing you do, so that when you join the labs, you'll have a proper revision. Remove all the other links. And this is a little bit, I know I'm distracting. First, I said login servlet, but I thought maybe we will clean it up. And no need of this index page. So get rid of this index page and make the login form itself as the welcome page. How to make login.html as the welcome file welcome page? We are just returning for that case study, XML, of course. So open web.inf, web.xml, and give the name of it itself as login. And since that servlet is gone, remove the extra stuff. So now, and of course, change the display name to day 5.1 so that there is no confusion. You understood? Pretty small changes I did. I just removed that index page because we don't require. Now the proper case study implementation begins. Of course, in short steps, small steps, make the login form. And so anytime client visits this website, day 5.1, the login form will be the first form. Done? Can I continue? Okay. So now you can close all of that. And now let us come to the point. So everyone knows cookie based, replace it by HTTP session. So in that case, will you make any changes to init or destroy method? Change or no change? Of course, no change. Will you make any changes to the authentication part? The servlet calling the downlayer method? No changes. If branch, still no change, because if the user is not logged in correctly, we don't want to remember him. Else branch will change. Everyone clear about where the changes are going to be? All of you with me? See, I'm not at all saying whether you are typing along with me or not. The question is whether you are understanding so far. Okay, great. Now you can remove this earlier stuff. Okay, you can say that all these things let it be, or if you want, you can remove. So here, are you going to create a cookie to store the validated user details? Change or no change? This will be changed. So here, replace, first write a comment and then write a code. Get HTTP session. Let's write it in a fully qualified manner. Why I write it? So that automatically you'll start remembering the APIs. This is the package name and the name of the interface is HTTP session. Get HTTP session object from the web container. The same statement which I make, HTTP session, if you see, is an interface. But when I say object, everyone knows implementation class instance. So all the interfaces specifications in Servlet API jar, all implementation classes in your Catalina jar, as long as you are in the Tomcat. Okay, so we'll confirm it in a minute. So this is the API. This is the wrong. This is not the API we are using. So let's use the API. So which method? Method of HTTP servlet. I've written it in steps. I'm just putting it here. So anytime you are revising, you get to read both API and the code. So what is the method? The method returns you HTTP session and the method name is get session. Okay, so this is what we are going to use in a minute, right? So let's remove this code. Redirection part is going to be the same. Okay, so I'll write the left hand side HTTP session. Say any variable name, I can say session equal to request dot get session. So who is requesting whom for what? Servlet is requesting the web container to give you either a newly created session object or the existing one. So tell me, this time what it will be? New or existing? Of course, new. How do you confirm whether it is new or old? Which is the method we have for that? Is new. So put it. See, This is you are learning the HTTP session lifecycle. So first day, so definitely spend time. So here I'm saying from login page, session is new, and here just saying session dot is new. So what is the expected output? True or false? What do you expect to see before we run it? Of course, true. Now, it is extremely interesting, forget interesting, informative to find that session ID. So how do I find that session ID? Session ID, which is the method we have discussed, session dot get ID. Read the pop-up help. Returns a string containing the unique ID assigned to this session. This ID is assigned by the servlet container and is implementation dependent. In short, let web container figure it out. So just use the method get ID. So we have found out whether the session is true or, new or not. And you will definitely see some huge long string. And we are going to connect two different clients, three different clients from three different browsers to clients. You will see the changing session ID. Now, the next step is, so step 1 is done. Step 2 is save user, I'll say this properly, validated user details under the session scope. Okay, so they will be available from login to logout till we discard the session or till the session expires, whatever happens first. Okay, so which is the method we want to use? This is the method of HTTP session. Which method, guys? Set attribute or get attribute? Answer is set attribute. So here I'm writing public. Setters are always void. Set attribute. I'll send you all the comments part if you want in a minute. Attribute name, and the object itself you can store as a attribute value. Okay. And user session dot set attribute name comma value string comma object. The moment you say string comma object string comma string, it is nothing but going to be added in the map. All of that later. And here let me give some this thing, client information, client details, user details, anything. And what is it we are going to store here is what will be the argument, what will be the value here. Can I say directly user or will I have to say user.toString? Simple user will suffice because user is an object. So you can directly store any Java object underneath, makes our job so easy. And then the rest of the things are the same. Redirect the client to the next page. So what I'll do is I'll send you this because it has got a lot of comments in case you want to copy any of these comments. Day 5.1 SRC main Java pages and the login servlet. So we have done the job of getting the session and adding the details under the session scope. Tell me when you are done. Actual lines are only two. Get the session and set attribute. Rest all is debugging and understanding. Done. So now let us go to the, you know the whole flow. Send redirect sends the response. Client browser will send the next request referring to the topics page. So now open that topics servlet. Okay. So this is your topics servlet. You are going to respond here. So of course, login successful. All that is same. Now, do you have to do the cookie-based tracking, cookie-based processing here? Or are we going to use HTTP session? We are going to use HTTP session. Okay. So now get rid of this. Keep that else part because you're going to require that else somewhere. So let that be a compiler error. Fine. So now identify the steps. So what are the steps? First step, anyone want to tell me? Okay, before you start telling, I'll tell you the requirement. I just want to display, send in the response, validated user details to confirm whether HTTP session tracking is working fine. Anyone wants to tell me? Yeah. So what will be the first step here? Step 1. Waiting for the response. I want to retrieve the user details from the session scope. So for that, what will be the step 1? Directly get attribute. Try writing directly get attribute. You will have to get the session object, guys. Yash is right. How can you, without getting that session reference, how can you call a method? So for answer this, get HTTP session object from the web container. But tell me now, this time, will it be new or will it be existing? Provided cookies are enabled. New object you will get this time or existing one? Of course, existing. So, existing object provided there's a catch. The whole approach will fail again miserably if you disable the cookies, provided cookies are enabled. You'll see all this. We'll test it as usually as like yesterday. So now this is the same step. HTTP session. Tell me, what should be variable name? Should it be same as session or can it be anything else? Variable name here. Anything or has to be session? It can be anything. This is a method local variable. It has no connection. So purposefully doing the change. The method remains the same. See the interesting work of container. Container is smart enough to find out whether it is an old client or a new client. How it became suddenly so smart? Whatever we were doing yesterday, request.getCookies and searching for a cookie, who is going to do it today? Container or programmer? Web container. So all that thing which I showed you, all that time I took was for explaining the internals of this approach. So what is the internal code your JVM? JVM means server-side JVM will call request.getCookies. It will attach the iterator and look for a cookie by any name or specific name. The web container will search for the cookie by a specific name. Which specific name, guys? You're right, specific name. Which one? Client details? Wrong. JSession ID is a correct answer. The cookie name is not client details, Prashant. That is an attribute name. The cookie name, the cookie which will be sent from the client to the server will be JSession ID, all uppercase, and that will happen internally. So how do you know whether this is an old session or existing session? You know the method is new, so do it fast. So from topics page, give some title from topics page. Session is new, and here you say HS dot is new. So tell me, if the cookies are enabled, what is the expected output here? True or false? False is the correct answer. Okay. I want to print the JSession ID. How do I do this? HS dot get ID. You can find out when the session was created. There is a get creation time, get last access time. So many methods exist. Currently giving you the limited API. So now answer the important question. You're going to see something, some value here. Let's say ABC1234. So tell me, for the same client, are you going to see the same session ID or different session ID? Of course, same. The whole idea is same HTTP session object. So will display same. This is the name of the cookie, same JSession ID for the same client. And the moment you connect it to a different client, different browser, of course, you will see the different value. Okay. Now come to the actual thing. In this page, do you want to set the details of the user or do you want to retrieve the details? I mean, add or retrieve, you retrieve. So the next step is step 2 is retrieve. user details from the session scope. So which method you want to use? Set attribute or get attribute? Of course, get attribute. So write this HTTP session API. And which method this time? Public object get attribute. And in goes your attribute name. Right? And this will return you null if the corresponding attribute is not present. So let's use it. So I'll write the left hand side user, our user. When you say user, please pick it up from Pojo's package. So suppose I say user, let's say validated. I'm purposefully changing the variable names. Validated user or retrieved user, you can say any variable name. I mean, you know, retrieved user. RHS, please. Anyone wants to type the RHS? Give me the right hand side. Absolutely correct. The downcasting is required. So here, added cast user and the method is hs.get attribute. Please don't make spelling mistakes. So go to the earlier page, copy this, whatever attribute name you have given. Otherwise, half the time you suffer, you start getting null pointer exceptions and all that because of your spelling mistakes. So just do that. And is there any chance that this will be null anytime? Or okay, let me rephrase the question. When will you get a null value here? When you might get a null value here? You will get. So when? What is the possibility? When is that possibility? Cookies are disabled. Very right, Ganesh. So you cannot rely blindly on this. So please check. If retrieved user is not equal to null, then you know you got your, you have restored the data. So you can have pw.print. Here you can say whatever, retrieved user details. HTTP session scope or from HTTP session, and you can say retrieve user and close that tag. Okay. Otherwise, that is why I was telling you session tracking failed. Session tracking based upon HTTP session failed, and the reason is the same, no cookies. So I think we are done here. Let me check. Get session and all that. Yeah, let me send you this also for the comments and everything. So now we are ready to test. You let me know when you are finished. All I'm doing is only 2-page scenario, authentication and topics to make you understand different possible techniques. Done? Can we test it together, guys? So you know how to deploy the project. Deploy only one web application, otherwise unnecessarily slows down the server. So done with the changes, great. So right click on day 5.1, run as, run on server. Next, say remove all. Keep only the latest project on the server deployed. All these let it be undeployed. Say finish and watch the console standard statement. I could see. So don't even, in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. So you should see that your user DAO instance has been created correctly. No issues. And then you come to this and you can check this. And here you have. Okay, sorry. Wait, don't press enter. I hope you are not press enter. Otherwise, you can clear this. Inspect tools. Without that, what will you understand? Nothing. Okay, so you can keep the network tab open. And now press enter. So I'll wait for you. Is it working fine? Provided, don't disable the cookies, enable the cookies. So are you able to retrieve the user details from the session scope correctly? Is it working fine? Okay. So now let us understand the internals. So here, first question, how many requests have been sent from the client? One or two? This is all revision of yesterday plus today's things. How many requests are you looking at in the network tab? Two. So click on the first one, which is authenticate. You can see all of that, right? So here, so see this. This is the form submission. How was the form submitted? Using the method post. Everyone understands it. What was the status code? This was a redirect response. So status code was 302. This is all old story. Now come down and look at response headers and tell me, which is the response header? Two response headers. One is location and one is set cookie. Can you see the set cookie header, guys? You will be able to see, click on that. I mean, I'm clicking on that. So what is the name of the cookie? JSession ID. And this is that long string which is associated with it. Okay. So of course, your string will be different than mine. It's a unique ID. If your web container uses a pseudo random number generator and generates this long. Okay. So remember the first two or last two digits. I'm remembering mine. Now go to the server side console and tell me, are you seeing the same JSession ID there? It will start making sense when you take so many efforts. So are you understanding? Your web container for the first request has created a brand new session, brand new HTTP session. What is the session ID it has associated with it? Something. I'm just calling it as 76 something. So this session ID, JSession ID, was sent from server to client without you doing that. This JSession ID is sent from server to client in form of a cookie. Clear so far? Okay. And currently we have enabled the cookies. So what is the age for this cookie? -1. Where will be this cookie stored? Locally in the browser's cache. So check that application. And can you see under cookies accepted from localhost, because I'm not disabling this. This is your JSession ID cookie with the session identifier. Getting all of that? Finding it all fine? Okay. So this was the story of the first request, first response. Go to the network again. Okay. Now click on the second, second request. So this is your redirect request, automatically generated by the web browser. What is the method you are looking at? Get. What is the response we got from here? 200, all okay. But the main thing I want you to look at is the request header. So tell me, are you looking at, are you having any request header I mean cookie in a request header? Of course, yes. So which is the request header it is sending back? Cookie with the name of the cookie at JSession ID and the same. So now this is that request data. This is that request header containing. So when you call in your, what is it called? Topic servlet, request.get session, what it calls, what container calls internally? Request.get cookies. Is it going to find any JSession ID cookie in the request header? Is it going to find any cookie by the name JSession ID? Yes or no? Of course, yes. And how do you confirm? See the next line. So for the next request, Is the HTTP session new or existing? Check it out, your own console. Of course, existing. And is it continuing with the same session or a different session? Same session. Making sense? Understanding the internals and the code and the network traffic all? Getting the feel? Yes or no? Try it out, guys. And those who are not trying it now, please try the same thing in the lab session. Now, let us bring in, okay, so I have not written. Yes, of course. Once you say B's and A's and all, what kind of a question, Shubham? Of course it is heads. What else? So now bring in another client. So open any browser, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, whatever you have, and access the same website. So here you have localhost D5.1. And you can log in as the same user, but the session will be still given differently. So I would suggest don't confuse yourself so early. So let me take the other users' credentials. Ria, I guess, use that 22. Pick up something else to simulate different users. So suppose I say this is also customer. Yeah. Anyway, we are not doing the role-based authentication. 4535. Okay. And here, don't add spaces, white spaces and all towards the end. Unnecessarily, you'll start getting authentication error. 4535, I guess. And tell me, are you able to, is your web container able to identify the client separately, or is it mixing up Kiran's detail with Rajas? I mean, is it mixing up two user details? Of course, identifying separately. So how many HTTP session objects must be created by now in the container heap? 1 or 2? Of course, 2. And how do you prove it? Look at the SOPs. See this. This was for the second user. Making sense? So now the another user has logged in. So is it continuing with the same session object for the first one, or is it creating a brand new one? Of course, a separate one. How do you know separate? Session ID will differ. What else? And it is a new one. And when the second client sends the redirect request, the next request, of course, it is saying, I mean, false, and continuing with this, continuing with the same session ID. So is your web application able to identify, I mean, create different session objects for different clients and manage the whole show with least possible API? Which methods we used? Request.getSession, set attribute and get attribute, and that's it. Got it so far? Understood so far? Complete. I mean, I won't say completely, but at least more than 50%. Once you see so many things, I hope the things are clear. Okay. So now let us add, of course, we are going to add the topics and everything, but let us add a logout link and check this, whether we can trace that login to logout flow. So before I say anything, let me open the our case study and let me show you what we plan to do next. Let me just keep that case study open so that, you know, anytime you want to refer to it, you are in a position. So we are going to complete the case study. I mean, when I say complete, I can't promise complete, but at least we'll continue. But currently we'll skip all this. So in this topics page, this we will get the content. You must have already got the content. So temporarily, here itself, I'm going to add a logout link. This page will have it actually, but let me add it here and focus on the last page. So what we are going to do in the next 2 minutes is, we are going to add a logout link in the topics page and connect it to logout servlet. So user will click on the link, client pull 1, and then as the next request, we will take the user to logout. So I just want to find out whether we are remembering the client from login to logout. So I'll say hello followed by username. We'll give a message, you have logged out successfully. Okay. And then we will give a link, visit again. So a customer can again log in and check the contents of our CMS. So tell me, which is the method you will use for discarding the session here in the logout servlet? Easy question. Of course, invalidate. But you can't directly use invalidate. So first you'll say get that session, HTTP session equal to request.get session.invalidate, and will confirm whether everything works fine. All clear? Everyone is clear about what I'm saying? Okay, so let's give it a try. So come to the code. Anytime you are developing, stop the server. When I say stop the server, directly don't stop it from here. Lifecycle hooks are not called. Destroy is not called. So go to the servers tab. And here you will see the stop the server button. And if you check the console, you will definitely see DAO cleanup. These warning messages currently ignore. This is not our issue. This is the Tomcat, native Tomcat issue. So when I replace this Tomcat by Spring Boot gives you that internal Tomcat server. All this will go away. In short, currently ignore. It's not our errors, nothing to do with our web application. So now we are talking about making a change. So start with me if you want. So go to the topic servlet and let us add a logout link. Okay. So logout link I want to add in any case. So here add logout link. This is a temporary one. Actual logout will be after seeing the tutorial details. So here I'm saying add logout link. Everyone knows how to send the link. When I say add, I'll say send logout link to the client. So you know this H5, this logout. So anchor tag href, double quotes. So I'm putting it in single quote. And we have not yet written the servlet. We will write the servlet in a minute, which has a URL pattern of logout. This is your hypertext. And this is your closing of the link, closing of the tag. If I forget something, tell me. This is a temporary step. I told you, we will have a logout link, but we will add it in a separate page. But I have not yet reached here, so that way. Added. So now, if I click on currently log me out, of course, I'll get HTTP 404 because container will not see any entry in that request mapping map. So what is the next action we'll have to take? What is it we'll have to write next? A logout servlet. Let's write one. So right click on pages, new class. Oh, sorry. Why bother when you have an option? New servlet. And let's call it as servlet. Next step. Map the URL pattern correctly. No spelling mistakes. Otherwise, you'll start getting unnecessary 404. And here, only supply the do-get. No constructors. Why? Because you're clicking on a link. If you have some specific jobs to be done during initializations and some cleanups to be performed, then only override. Okay. So currently focus on only understanding HTTP session lifecycle. So override do get. And why get and not post? Clicking on the link, not submitting a post data or something. So do it. Tell me once you are ready. Get rid of this code and we'll start writing it together. Shall we continue? So first steps are the same. Set content type, which is called as the MIME type, as I explained yesterday. So response dot set content type. Okay. Oh, it's not really case sensitive, but let's not mess up the cases and get the print writer. This part, zero change. So finish this much. This is like a template. You can save this much code, and just paste it whenever I ask you to write a new servlet. Do it. Done? Okay. So now always identify the steps. So what is it we want to do first? That's why I said keep your case study open. So this is the page we are building. So if I want to get the user details, do the backtracking, reverse engineering. Where are the user details? Or rather, how are you going to retrieve it? Your choices are request parameter, session, or database. Database, you're saying, guys, we have saved it in the session already. So reading the details from the session will be faster, or once again, what do you say, connecting to the database and all the way lifting it will be faster. Of course, session will be faster. It's from the memory, right? So if I want to read something from the session, first step is get HTTP session from web container. You know the API, HTTP session, any variable name, request.get session. Write the comment and write the code. You'll have the understanding also, and you'll remember the API also. Now tell me, I want to say hello followed by username. So are we retrieving the details or are we adding the details? Set attribute or get attribute? Everyone knows the answer. Retrieving, get attributes. So second step, get user details from the session scope. Okay, sorry. Before that, a second. We'll keep debugging. We'll keep adding these. So please add these SOPs. More you add tracers, as in, the log, these are nothing but the log statements, you understand it better. So here I'm saying from the logout page. You tell me, what will be the value of session.isNew here? True or false? Of course, false. We are continuing where we have discarded the session. Okay, so false. Do you expect to see the same session ID for the same client or a different one? Everyone knows same session ID. You have already seen all of it. Now let us get to business. Get user details from this. This is also the same. So I can say user, import it. Keep a what do you say, attention. Don't blindly import it from anywhere because there is a user class so many places. Pojos.user. And you have to do the downcasting. Session.get attribute. And please don't waste your time in spelling mistakes. Copy the attribute name. Again, you can't be sure. If the cookies are disabled, it will be all null. So do the null checking. If user is not equal to null, then only you can say, then only you can get those details. Then you can do this. So pw print will have h5 hello. And now I just want to have a greeting. I don't want to print all the user details. I just want to see a salutation, greeting, hello followed by username. How will I get this username? Easy question. I just want to say hello followed by name, username. Of course, a getter. Pojo is all about, we have written the getters and all. So user dot get name. Okay. This is just to confirm Are we remembering the client? Okay, so this is it. Okay, so you'll be having this, and then you can say the common message, you have logged out successfully. You have logged out, and then you will have a link of visit again. But now you want to discard the session. So this is pretty easy. Hello, and you have logged out message. But what is it you have to do is you have to discard the session. So which is the API we decided? Invalidate. So this session.invalidate method, should I call in only if branch or all the time? So let me not confuse you. Let me write the else part also. Copy that else from here so that you don't have to waste your time again. I can ask you a question now. So where do you want me to write the session.invalidate? Line number 41 or line number 44? 41 or 44? You take your time. I hope you are understanding the question. I'm saying option 1, here invalidate, or option 2, here invalidate. Where, please? Tell me the line number. So the correct answer is 44. I'll tell you why. If the cookies are disabled, okay, let's go by the cookies enabled scenario. In the cookies enabled scenario, this is the old session. So in this case, when I write, of course it will be discarded. But if the cookies are disabled, and when you call this HTTP session, container will create a new session for every request, and that newly created session has to be discarded. That is the reason in either case, if or else case, I mean here we will write it commonly. You won't understand this unless until we test it in a cookies disabled manner. So remove this. I'll try repeating the statement, but I don't know whether it will reach you so fast. I said, or okay, let me ask you a question. When this line is executed and cookies are enabled, what will it return? New session or existing session? Existing. Now I'm asking you, suppose client doesn't trust you. We are going to test it in a minute. And client has disabled the cookies. So what will the container return? New session or existing? 100% new. Guys, that whole JSession ID business is coming from the cookie. At the moment there are no cookies, poor web container will treat you as a fresh client, new client, and session.isNew will be true. So that newly created blank session, of course, has to be closed, has to be invalidated. That is why the answer. So invalidate the session. And which is the API for that? Session.invalidate. Okay. So I've given the message, you have logged out, else is fine, no cookies. And then we'll give a link for the user to visit again. Later, I'll show you automatic way. You must have seen in websites. After a 2 seconds delay, it gives you a message that you will be automatically taken to the login page. So all those techniques I'll show you over time. Send the visit again link. I'll send you this whole zip in a minute. So here, where do you want to take the client? After logout to the login form, login.html. And here change the hypertext to visit again. Okay. So I think we are done here. Okay, let me send you this. We'll just test it once and send you the whole zip. So we'll test it first with enabled cookies. Then we'll disable the cookies and we'll check. You let me know when you have done the typing part or whenever you are ready. Like. Okay, so if you're ready, let's get going. Right click, run as. Now earlier projects are removed, so I can say directly finish. All the time instruction is same. Watch the console. So here you should always be careful to see user or creator. Then go back to this. Open the inspect option anytime something doesn't work or for understanding. And all of that. Cookies are enabled. So just run it once with the enabled cookies. So this part you had already seen. So all these 2 requests, business and all that, and things are working fine. And please check it on the server side console. Here, how many HTTP session objects are created so far? 1 is a right answer. So has everyone checked it? Is true. It got some JSession ID. And in the next request, redirect request, it continued with the same session. Are we having the same observations, guys? Everyone's observation is matching? Okay. So now when you click on log me out, and are we remembering the client till the logout page in the next request? Answer is yes. You're not forgotten the client and you got this message, you have logged out, and just check this thing again. So you can see from logout page also, it is continuing with the same session. So of course, new session is false, new is false, and continuation of it. All the observations clear so far. Matching, having this. Classcast, Shubham, check your code. You must have downloaded this thing. Typecasted it wrongly. Typecasting is wrong. Check that line of the typecast. Okay. Now here, click on the visit again link and let us log in with the same client. Okay. So kiran@gmail.com 1, 2, 3. Log in with the same credentials after logout. So are you retrieving the details again? Okay, but now check something interesting on the server console and tell me, was the earlier session really discarded or are we continuing with the earlier session? Are you understanding? So that is what I said. When you say session.invalidate, the session object is all invalidated from the server side heap. So we don't care whether the client browser is keeping that cookie as a JSession ID. A new JSession ID will be created and will be sent and the story repeats. Okay, so don't log me out. Don't click on the link. Open another one. You should always play with at least 2 clients. So go to the beginning. Log in as a different one. 4535, I guess. And you can see that. So now you can see the different clients having different JSession IDs. I think you should be getting a hang of it by now. Are you getting it? And here, now you can log out from that second client. We are remembering the client till the whatever, till the logout page. And if the same client logs in again, for example, the whole story is the same. Here a new session. So a new session object was created and it is having these values. So tell me, session lifecycle with enabled cookies. Understood or not understood? I've not yet gone to the disabled cookies. That is a second discussion. But at least with the enabled cookies, when things are all fine, things are working, should be working as expected. So you can log out from here. Okay. So now come to the Chrome. Don't change anything here. Also you can log out. And now, you know, obviously what we are going to do is we are going to disable the cookies. So let me ask you questions beforehand. Don't start anything. I'm asking you. We're going to block the cookies from localhost. So in that case, will you be able to remember the client or will session tracking fail? Session tracking will fail. Absolutely. Now, what is the expected output? I'm just checking how much whatever I've said has reached you. So let me start asking you. So first, I'll say this. So it will go to the login. I'm saying cookies are disabled. Okay, hear me. So from login page, what will be the value you'll see? True or false? When the cookies are disabled, keep giving me answers. True. It will generate some session ID, not same, some session ID, you know, arbit. Now, after the redirect request, after the client has sent the second request, redirect request, what is it you expect to see here? Guys, cookies are disabled. So poor web container has no clue that it is the same client you are talking about. 100% you will see here true and a new J session ID will be there. So now you have got a new session ID. We had that session, but we have lost the key to that data structure. So this newly created session, is it blank or is it having that those user details? Doesn't have anything. So of course you will go to that else branch. When you try to downcast, user details will be null. And that is when you will see the error message, no session tracking, no cookies. So the point I'm trying to make is, the moment you say request.get session, what will web container check? Web container will call request.get cookies internally. If it finds the J session ID, if it finds the cookie with the name J session ID, it will treat you as what? New client or old existing client? Existing one, and continue the session tracking. Otherwise, it will create a new session object. So let us confirm. So how do we confirm? Now clear the screen. How do you clear the screen? Can you see a button here? There is a button here, clear the console or something. So I've not closed the console. We want the console. Clear the console. Go to the client-side browser. This kind of testing is very essential for any web programming, not just Java. So just open I'll open the settings and search for a cookie. Oh, and block the cookies. Come down here, cookie and other site data. Come down all the way. Sites that can never use the cookies, add localhost. Whatever host. Currently we are working on localhost. So localhost, I'm using the port number 99, localhost 99. Don't checkbox this. Don't do anything on this. Okay. So are we accepting the cookies from this site anymore? Answer is no. It can never use the cookies. Now check. So we have disabled the cookies. Now let's have the whole business done. Any user you can log in as. So suppose I say Kiran. Oh, no, I was wondering whether. So tell me, are you remembering the user or is the session tracking failed? Session tracking working or failed? Of course it is failed. You can see that. Now, observe something. Of course, we are going to see the console, but before that, network. So, look at the first request, authenticate. Look at the response header. RV, V means container. Is container still sending the cookie JSession ID in the response header? It's a Boolean question, yes or no? Of course, yes. It is the same web application. Why it won't? The moment you say request.getSession, it does it. But is your client browser saving that cookie in anywhere, such as browser cache and all? No. So click on the second one and check the request header and see, is there any cookie header there? Are you finding any cookie header there? You will not find. Are you understanding? Because we have disabled the cookies. We are blocking the cookies from that. Finding the cookies or not finding the cookie header. From the request header of the next request topics, it's not such a hard question. Of course, you won't find. And if you check your application, and here, this is the old cookie which has no relevance now. This was earlier a cookie for earlier session ID, so this doesn't matter. Now see the story on the server side console and tell me. For the first request, of course, session was created newly. But now what is happening for the second request, guys? Tell me. Is it treating you as a existing user or a new user? New user still. And poor web container doesn't have that JSession ID which matches with that existing session ID on the server side space. So it has to create a new one. Okay. So now continue the testing. So here, I'll just fix it. Tell me. Is it working? Are you getting that hello? I mean, are you remembering the user in the logout page, or is the session tracking failing? Of course, session tracking failing. And I hope now you must have got this. So for the third request, is it continuing with the earlier session, or is it creating a third session object which is totally blank? It is definitely creating the third newly session created, which doesn't have the user details. So the session tracking has failed. But the session object has been created. That was the reason, guys, I told you. You have to call this invalidate session method in either case. Whether the session is working or not working, whatever session, existing or new, you have to discard. Understood the explanation? Understood the statements? Or the understood the code and the whatever, the explanation and the observation. Okay, so we are stopping here, of course. Before that, I'll share the zip file in case anyone wants to test it. Sure. And then in the second half, we will continue with the completion of your case study. So let me do that. Yes. So I've sent you this day 5.1 zip till whatever we have completed. All I have replaced is login. All I have completed is login to logout. But there are so many in between things which will complete our case study, which is what we'll do in 1 hour's time. So let's stop here for a break and resume in our meet me around 11:05. That will be all. See you around.